everyone. Okay, so picking up from last week, we see Lightning Law pretty much kill Shiki, and immediately following that, Rebecca arrives on the scene too late to save him, which, after a moment of grieving, she realizes she managed to use her powers to turn back time and save him with Laguna's help. And right from the jump, I will say, I don't hate the thought process Rebecca went through to get to the conclusion she did about her powers, about how her powers can work in this world. But I also admit I found the thought process itself a little bit lacking in the sense where she acted off the assumption that Rachel's warning about time travel in Universe Zero was only guesswork, and it's one of those things where, on its own, it's not bad. But I think this is where Mashima could have also connected it to the fact that Professor Weiss of this world kind of cracked the code on this through Joker being able to use time-based powers in this world. And like, I know it sounds like I'm getting hung up on semantics, because given how desperate like Rebecca was in the moment of like, okay, how what the fuck do I do? Shiki's dead. What am I supposed to do? Like, I get that from the emotional standpoint, but from the logical standpoint, there's something about this situation where I think is. It's one of those things where the thought process itself of getting from A to B just needed a little bit of stronger reinforcement. Again, I commend Rebecca for even being able to think as clearly as she did, given the situation, but again, there just needed to be a little bit more connective tissue in my mind about how she reached the conclusion she did. Again, I still like it, but it's just a little bit more would have been nice, I guess you could say. But okay, with that one critique out of the way, though, I do want to talk about the part I loved the most about this chapter, which is the setup of Laguna tagging in to take on Lightning Law, and this whole sequence in itself is just so fucking raw, in my opinion. Like, the whole line after Laguna's whole line after using his powers on the robots about every one of them is crying and that Shiki's fury is now his own. Like, it is the standard like friendship talk kind of thing, but the way it's presented and because it's Laguna the one who's saying all this, it's the most badass raw things I've ever seen from Laguna. Only made better when Laguna emphasized the point when Shiki said he's my enemy. Laguna rebuked by saying, "Don't you mean our enemy?" As his way of saying, like, don't jump into things alone, because you're not alone. You got all of us. And like, it's the friendship stuff, but the way Laguna, but because it's Laguna specifically, because of who Laguna is, it's like, it's presented through such this raw badass lens that like Laguna is just so. Like, Laguna is just this energy to him where it's like the dude just does not give a fuck. He just goes all in on everything he does, and I kind of appreciate that about him. And you know, it's so funny, but if you were to tell me a couple years back that Laguna would become one of my favorite characters in this series, I wouldn't believe you. But now, every time the dude shows up, I'm like, fuck yes, it's Laguna. Like, think about that as well for a moment. A guy in a leather jacket and stilettos gets me hyped to see him kick ass. Like, something I never would have said a few years back during the time when Dragon Joe was the first thing, was the first big threat. But every time he shows up, I'm legitimately hyped to see what exactly Laguna is gonna do. And in this case, I'm so hyped about the whole idea of Laguna versus Lightning Law right now. Like, this fight is like a matchup made in heaven, in my opinion. But okay, calm down for a moment, Cal. You need to calm down for a moment, Cal. There is something else we need to talk about, which is that we do need to talk about that one moment in the chapter where we do see Rebecca's face start to crack from having used her powers. And keep in mind, what I'm about to say is pure speculation, but this might be the biggest sticking point about Rebecca's powers, which is to say, even if she can use her powers, the toll I think it takes on her body might be even more severe in Universe Zero than it was back home in their own universe. Like, I don't know. I might be wrong on that, but I think that's Mashima's way of saying, yeah, even if she can use her powers, it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be like even from more severe side effects to it. At least that's what I assume is happening here. And all right, but all right, it's time to talk about the ending where we flash back again to see Hermit meeting with Valkyrie, saying the planet is crying. And I gotta be honest, I know Mashima was building up with something horrific happening to this world, and the reveal is going to be worth it in the end. But I can't lie either. I am reaching that point where because it feels like the pacing of these sections is going a little too slow in my mind. Like, don't get me wrong, we've every time a chapter flashes back to 20,000 years ago or however long it was, we are getting information, but it's going at such a baby steps kind of pace, rather than taking huge leaps to the point where I'm not sure where I keep saying to myself, okay, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Just have patience. And I'm sure it is going to be one of those things where Mashima does have a very specific chapter and narrative point where that he wants to make the big reveal of what all this means. But again, it could, in my mind, it could be done a little bit. The pace at which it's going could be going a little bit faster. Like something just doesn't feel right about the pacing of these sections, in my opinion. With that said, I'll be honest. Maybe it's because I'm a dumbass, but I don't know where Mashima's going with this now. With a line like "the planet is crying," like my best guess is that's a very loose way of saying ultimately what's going to happen is the planet is going to face a massive flood of sorts. But even I don't know if that's actually what it means. And again, this kind of gets back to the problem I'm having with these flashbacks right now, which is I can only vaguely connect certain dots together of what Mashima's building up to. And by this point, I feel we should have been given a lot more information to work with. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like just we're not being given enough information. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and on this control. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.